Right now, an abuse victim and literal child is out on the front lines fighting a battle for grown adults while all the good men in the community look away. I'm not really one to beat around the bush, or at least I like to think that I'm not, so I'm just gonna give it to you guys straight. All of us, myself included. Let's grow up. You all sit around and act like you're the only people in this world with problems right now. Well, guess what? You're not. With everything that's happening in the world, much less this community, it's insane to think that your own personal struggle somehow outweighs the situation that presents itself before you. Tell yourselves all you'd like that you're just non-confrontational, but that's cowardice by another name. While you're all so busy sitting around patting yourselves on the back, liars, manipulators, and predators are so openly on display for all to see at the forefront of this community. The only solace that you can take in all of this is that you're able to stay true to your non-confrontational guns. That you were able to protect yourself and not risk stirring the pot. Well, congratulations. I'm sure the next victim will be proud to have helped you pad out your bottom line. And while you're busy looking the other way while heinous behavior goes unchecked, you stand there yet again, the good man doing nothing. A phrase everyone in this community has heard all too often recently. Instead of speaking out against what's so obviously wrong, you choose to be cowards to the very end. Are these the people you want representing your community? Is this the non-action you'd like to be remembered for? Will you turn your backs again as yet another cult of personality openly takes advantage of their position? I'm not shitting on all of you who haven't spoken up about this yet. This is how I felt about myself as I was sitting here watching this all unfold before me. And to answer the question, I say absolutely not. I don't claim to know for sure if Chaz is a rapist like Indy claims, but I do know for a fact that he and his own have done nothing but lie, abuse, and hide the truth to the best of their ability since this whole thing began. Not a single claim they've made has been substantiated in any way. Possibly one of the most important and egregious claims that's been made that is yet to be substantiated is that Indy somehow manipulated a person of interest from the allegations a year prior. Now, I kind of want to be sensitive about this because I understand that the person of interest was an abuse victim themselves. Compounding that, I understand that this person was underage, and to the best of my knowledge, still is a child. Before I go on with that, though, I am compelled to ask, why are you guys still on the sidelines? Why are you letting a child fight this battle? That goes to both the people who have said nothing as well as the accused. You are using a child to fight this adult battle. Let's make that clear. An abuse victim survivor, no less. And still you say nothing. Still both sides let this continue. Where's the manipulation? From all we've seen, this is the first time that these people have spoken, as indicated right here in the text itself. Not only that, but it's actually Henry himself who offers to lend a listening ear. How is this manipulation? What I see is a person reaching out to another, offering to let them know that they're not alone in their abuse, and then later choosing to share their story only after being invited to do so. If there was more clear-cut evidence, surely this would have been the time to show it. I think it's very important to understand exactly who Henry is, given that this is the basis of the claim that Indy is a liar and manipulator to begin with. Henry states very plainly, Indy manipulated me a year ago to try and expose Chaz, and all of it is either taken out of context, false, or exaggerated. Now contrast that with the rest of the messages that we see from Henry here. I don't claim to know anything about Henry. I don't claim to have ever spoken with Henry. But the differences in these messages are noticeable. The difference in the wording and the language used is apparent. Specifically the parts about taken out of context, false, and exaggerated. I'd really like you guys to think about that in relation to some other statements that we've seen recently. This is what Henry wrote, but these words feel oddly familiar, don't they? Like that feeling you get when a word's right on the tip of your tongue, but you can't quite place it. It doesn't feel quite right, does it? Undoubtedly, if you do enough research on this, you're gonna feel like you've heard these words a million times, or at least very similar phrases. But where from? Now, before I get back to more clear-cut bullshit, I just want to underscore just how important this piece of evidence actually is. Right now, Henry is the only basis that anybody has to believe that Indy is a liar, a manipulator, anything unsavory of the sort. And here we have Henry himself admitting that he's doing this mostly just out of a belief for Chaz. Chaz, the man who lets children fight in his place. He even goes on to say that he has no idea if Indy's telling the truth about this or not at all. And again, this bears repeating. This is what's being touted as hard evidence that Indy is a liar. Now, Henry, I doubt that you'll ever see this, but I honestly think that you're a good kid. And I'd like to apologize to you for the fact that every adult in this community thus far has completely failed you. I sympathize greatly with everything that you've been through. I understand that you must have been feeling all sorts of feelings, this time a year ago. Probably feelings of betrayal, feelings of distrust, feeling like everybody is out to use you or take something from you. And I do sympathize with those feelings. But I'd ask you to understand just how central your words are to everything that's going on right now. I'm definitely not calling you a liar, Henry, but I want you to understand that right now, with the screenshots you provided, it's going to be very hard for anybody to believe that Indy manipulated you just based on what you've given us here. You say that you now know that you were manipulated by Indy, that she took advantage of you while you were in a very understandably weakened state. I think it might really help if you could explain how you came to that conclusion. But if you just want to get away from the situation, I completely understand. I'm not going to press the issue, and I don't think that anybody else should either. But if there was only one thing that you could answer, what I'd really like to know is, what do you mean by Chaz helped you become a better person? Was it from this conversation right here? I'd be very interested to see the rest if you're willing. If not, that's okay. We know Chaz has it too. It might not mean anything, but I'd be very curious to see how he helped you become a better person is all. I have my own ideas, but it's not good to assume, Wouldn't want to come off looking like a jackass. Right, so speaking of LuckyCrit, he's claimed that Indy has somehow removed or somehow obfuscated screenshots she shared because of the text here reading blocked messages. But this is such an obvious lie that anyone with a following of his size should know. This was called out in mere moments, I should point out, so there's really no point in spending time on such a bullshit claim. Unless you'd really like me to sit here and explain to you how obvious it is that a person of his standing should know how Discord of all things works. It's just a feature of Discord. Nothing to see here. LuckyCrit then hides behind the abused child yet again and says that Indy told Henry that she had both Lucky's and IDC's word that they would back her up on this claim. Unfortunately, we have no such screenshot of this, and from your own words, Lucky, it doesn't seem like she came to you directly, so we really have no proof that this happened at all. Yet another unsubstantiated accusation. You and your lot have been circulating this idea that this whole allegation has already been solved, that it's already been taken care of. Okay. Where's the proof? Surely last time this year when this first happened, you had a smoking gun of some sort, yes? Where is it? And if you had such a decisive piece of evidence that could put this all to bed, why is IDC here claiming the exact opposite? Claiming that the situation never really resolved itself. More so, it just sort of lost steam and vanished. And tell me something, Lucky. Why exactly is it that it was so fine for Goose to stay friends with Mangs? Even solicit raunchy photos of herself to him. And I'm not saying none of this is okay. This is all perfectly fine, but I would really love to know why all of that was fine, but it's somehow wrong for Indy to stay in any kind of contact with Chaz at all. What's going on here, man? Aren't you a defender of women? Champion of women's rights? More bullshit. You claim that you have decisive insider evidence that proves everything that you've said. Then fucking show it. You can't say you don't want to get involved and then constantly downplay and attack the accuser all in the same breath. You are involved, so shit or get off the phone. You're scum. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Mean words hurt your feelings. Well, remember that next time you start making bullshit claims that don't stand up to an ounce of scrutiny. If you can't handle the truth how it is outside of your own echo chamber circle jerk, then stay off the internet. And quit trying to pull this dark place bullshit defense. It's so played out and low it doesn't even deserve a proper response. You're not a victim here, you're an instigator. And as for Chaz, well, what is there to say, really? You claim that you can take no for an answer in the very same image where you refuse to take no for an answer. Although you may or may not be a rapist, I'm not going to make that claim. You are a predator through and through. You spend so much time begging and pleading for this woman to just come back to your room with you, it's honestly pathetic. And then when that doesn't work, you resort to guilt-tripping her by making her feel bad for you and all the inconvenience that you're being put through because she won't just come along with your plans. Despite the fact that she's protested to this very idea several times, it's all about you, and how you feel about all this. Fuck what she thinks, right? It's honestly kind of hard to believe that a full-grown adult would even behave like this. It honestly reads a lot more like a middle schooler who just found out about sex and thinks this is what it means to be an alpha. These messages right here are the real problem for you, Chaz, but you spend so much time bullshitting around about other things that I'm not even sure anything you could have to say on the subject could really add anything at this point. Especially since you were so easily and readily available to prove that Monica's allegations are seemingly false. So why is it that these allegations still stand in their entirety? If these DMs are fake, then you should have been able to prove that by now, right? This is a rape allegation. Groping is terrible, don't get me wrong, but to spend so much time disproving that one when this is standing right in front of you just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me. Unless, of course, these messages are all real. And let's not get anything twisted, these messages are 100% real. I'm not saying that makes you a rapist, Chaz, but if you're gonna sit there and tell me that these messages are fake and you had all this time to disprove them but chose not to, get the fuck out of here. This is the most damning thing against you. And you mean to tell me you hadn't noticed? And don't even try to say this shit's fake, because there's no fucking way that would take 3 to 4 days for you to come up with that excuse. Especially not considering that you were able to come up with that very same reasoning for Monica within less than a day. You claimed this was all taken care of a year ago, right? So how did you handle this shit a year ago, huh? Doesn't really seem like it should take this long to repeat the process now, does it? Again, can't say for sure that you're a rapist, but you're definitely a scumbag with complete lack of control. That much is certain. All you've done since the start is answer softball questions and pat yourself on the back, but when it comes to the hardest questions of all, ones you've supposedly already taken care of a year ago no less, it's been nothing but radio silence. All this in an obvious attempt to steer public conversation away from the questions that really matter. Well, congrats, it worked. Now let's get back to the issues, shall we? You had screenshots and screenshots of the monster that is Mangs, and make no mistake, that guy was a monster. There's really no debate to that. But you know which screenshot I'd really like to see? The one where Mangs hides behind a child. Yeah, you know, the good shit, man. The one where he lets an abuse victim take the front line for him instead of coming out to fight with his own words. That'd be great. I'd love to see that one, Chaz. You've lied and manipulated your way through this whole incident in a way that displays to the whole world your character. You hide behind your defenders in the mask of anonymity with this FETruth nonsense, a charade so shallow that a child could see through it. You may claim that you didn't press send tweet, and that might be true, but do you honestly expect anyone to believe an anonymous third party unrelated to yourself was able to post a mountain of so-called evidence? And I do use that term very loosely. It's all just victim-blaming bullshit that doesn't actually take into account the initial encounter in which Chaz repeatedly pressures a woman into coming back to his room for sex, despite the fact that she initially refuses several times over. So there's really no point in me going over that, although I will link it just for consistency's sake. You claim a third party came up with all of this. All in your defense, all within 30 minutes of the allegation, and it has nothing to do with you. Even though you or a person related very closely to you are the only people that could have compiled that evidence to begin with. Bullshit. Whether you sent the tweets out yourself or not, the connection is clear to see, so quit playing around. This isn't a game, you aren't some vigilante hero. This isn't V for goddamn Vendetta. Start owning up to your actions. At best, you're a manipulator of children who so plainly aims to deceive, and at worst, you're a rapist. Do you get it? I don't care how many unrelated parties you can pull out of the woodworks to come for your defense. We're not talking about your relationship with them, we're talking about your relationship with Indy. How hard is that to understand? Every claim that Indy has made about you being manipulative is so plainly obvious for all to see that the only other alternative we have is to believe that you're just this goddamn dumb. So which is it? It's kind of hard to tell, honestly, considering how much time you spent not defending yourself and having other people do it for you, including an abuse victim who's a minor you choose to drag back into all of this after they chose to left the community of their own volition. A very understandable decision to make, considering that this abuse happened with another Fire Emblem YouTuber. Yet here you are, taking advantage of that very same person and their willingness to defend you instead of opening your own goddamn mouth and doing it yourself. You're trash, and even if you are innocent of rape, that doesn't change the fact that you're still a garbage human being. And please, oh please, I would love you to claim that Henry wanted to do this all on his own volition. Because if that's the case, then where's your proof that Indy manipulated anything? And even if he did want to do this all on his own, why the fuck are you gonna let him? You are trash. And Goose, all I'm gonna say is, this is repulsive. Get some help. Some serious help away from the internet. And for the record, I'm not showing this nicer version of what you actually said out of the goodness of my heart. It's because I couldn't find the image of you claiming that somebody is hijacking your fucking victimhood. Please, get some help. So to those of you in influence in Chaz's camp out on the front lines defending his every action, own up and get out. You've proven time and time again through this entire debacle that you are garbage human beings with no leadership skills and more reflecting to do than a goddamn mirror. Or double down, because I'd be glad to explain to the world all the abuse and manipulation tactics the whole lot of you are guilty of if you'd like. Can always break out the old power and control wheel, right? A standard of identifying abuse the courts often turn to when trying to evaluate an abuser's progress. Some things that I'm sure we've all heard of before this, right? And let me just say, that whole part about using obfuscation, wow! You guys check like every box, man. Are you going for a high score? And once again, just to be clear, and to cover my own ass, I'm not alleging that Chaz actually is a rapist. I don't know that. I don't have the information necessary to make that decision, although I can say with relative certainty that he does have predatory behavior. I'm not making any definitive statement on whether Indy's rape allegation is true or false. Obviously, I would rather be a part of a community where somebody didn't get raped, but the idea that Indy is somehow less credible than any of her detractors, at least as we know it, is absolutely laughable. That wasn't really the point of all this. The point is to demonstrate that these people are absolutely garbage-tier human beings and shouldn't be trusted as far as you can throw them. My argument here isn't one of guilt or innocence, it's just a matter of the fact that these people are absolute scumbags. Quit fucking around and get to the real evidence if you truly have it as you say. And in the meantime, if you don't, feel free to indulge in any of the questions I presented for you. To the community at large, why are we listening to these people? They haven't given a straight answer from day one, and yet many of you still sit around with bated breath waiting for the next statement as if it could mean anything. As if these people are trustworthy, as if anything prior has been of any substance, as if these people have done anything but muddy the waters and obfuscated best while being outright caught in several lies and hypocritical statements at worst. All the while, instead of defending these accusations by themselves, they hide behind the shield of a child. To the rest of you, why aren't you calling this out? Why are you standing on the sidelines, head in the sand, ignoring what's so obviously wrong? Why are you letting Henry, a child, step into this mess in your stead? How many red flags do you need before you decide to act? Do we need another Mang situation, or can we be mature enough to nip this in the bud? I'm not going to preach to you like I'm the perfect being, got into situations that I probably could have handled better, pissing contests and the like that probably didn't need to happen, but that's nothing compared to the likes of what we're seeing right now. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that my situation is exactly the same as all of yours, especially considering that most of you are much closer to Mangs than I ever was. It would be dishonest of me to sit here and say that I understand exactly what it is that you're going through, but in many ways I looked up to him too, you know. I only ever formally appeared in person on his channel the one time, but there were other times where I was invited. I always sort of kept my distance when it came to these sort of things, not necessarily, at least at the time, against him personally, but it's just kind of how I perceived the scene, really. I didn't want to feel like I was beholden to anybody else's interest in helping my channel grow. I wanted to feel like I did it all on my own. But I definitely thought about going back. You know, whenever we spoke, he was always nice to me, and he knew I was black. And this isn't some kind of pseudo-reverse black friend defense or anything like that. No, the dude was absolutely a monster, and it's a shame that it turned out to be that way. But I won't lie, when I first found out about this, well, honestly, I didn't get much sleep either. You know, I was thinking about if things really would have been that way, at least in regards to how he perceived race, if I had made a better effort to reach out to him. I know it sounds kind of silly to say, especially with some of the relationships that some of you guys had with him, but I wondered, and still do wonder, if he had actually known a black guy, would he have held these beliefs? You know? Would he have been able to learn to judge a person by the content of their character and not by the color of their skin? I thought about that too, you know. I remember during his Path of Radiance playthrough, he made some comment about how, damn, they really did Dev Dan dirty or something like that, you know, because he's a slave and he doesn't come off as all that smart. And he's just kind of like the stereotypical version of what you might think of a black guy if you never met a black person. And it's just kind of weird to think about that Mangs could have really been like this all along, you know? I think about that a lot. Maybe I could have made a difference. Or maybe I just perceived what I wanted to see. Maybe there was no hope, but we'll never know the answer to that question. But right now we do have the chance to call out some bullshit behavior in our own community. Let's do the right thing. I've not once in this entire video claimed that Chaz is definitively a rapist, and I'm not prepared to make that statement. But this behavior that we're seeing here right now is ridiculous. So please, guys, let's grow up.